That's my shit, my shit, my shit. That's my shit. That's my shit, my shit, my shit. That's my shit. That's my shit, my shit, my shit. That's my shit. Shit.
Who like dope beats, fly rhymes, and waxing the philosophical? Cause we don't like the small talk, gossip, and what's topical. If it's a product of your heart and soul, then it's optimal. Pull up and have a seat, we about to do the impossible. I'll put you on the game if you working new to the set. Underground lurking and ain't nobody heard of you yet. Whether first time hustling, service, or crazy vet, lay it on the table the way we earning major respect. Now we paying tribute, so just relax and laugh a bit. Sit back and maybe you'll learn something after it. Try not to be offended, pretending to have a fit. The truth is, I just like what I like. That's my shit.
That's my shit, my shit, my shit. That's my shit. That's my shit, my shit, my shit. That's my shit. That's my shit, my shit, my shit. That's my shit. Shit. This right here, that's my shit.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to That's My Shit. I'm J-Rod, and this is where I talk to artists, musicians, people that I admire greatly, and today is no exception. I've got another member of the two Skinnee J's, Mr. Andy Action, will be joining us, and we're gonna chop it up. We're gonna talk about the J's, the past, present, and potentially the future. So stay tuned and tune in or some shit. There he is. I don't see you yet. Hey, how we doing?
What's happening, Jason? Nice to meet you, man.
It's a pleasure. It really is a pleasure. Oh, and I was going to ask you about it. You've got the Champion Remix vinyl behind you.
I did. I just got my advanced copy yesterday, and man, it's gorgeous. We're psyched about it.
Nice, man. It's just a pleasure to talk to you and be able to do this, man. I'm fortunate that some of my favorite artists and musicians actually want to talk to me. So thanks again for coming.
Yeah, man, glad to be here. It's an exciting time for two Skinny J's, so it's a good opportunity to get to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, it's been a rough couple weeks, and I was just on YouTube looking at some of the archival footage that you guys have uploaded. One thing was your little, I don't want to say pseudo documentary, like What Went Wrong, I believe is
Oh
the
yeah,
title.
a lot
And
went wrong. Yeah.
man, that put a big smile on my face that I haven't been able to have for a few days. So just the joy you guys bring is palpable.
Oh, right on. And man, that's the goal. I can't tell you how good that makes me feel to hear that. I mean, to me, this is our college band, and the fact that, I mean, I just turned 54 years old. The fact that in our 50s, like, it still exists in the hearts and minds of other people besides us is incredible, and we're really fortunate for that. It was really just like a college, kind of one-off idea that, has had considerable legs, but a lot of things went wrong along the way, thus the documentary.
Right. So I got some random questions for you. I don't know how much
Yeah.
time you've got, but
I've got till about 2:30, so I about 28 more minutes here.
okay. So well, I learned from Joel when we last spoke that
Oh yeah.
you were originally playing samples on a drum pad live on stage in place of drums.
Yeah.
And I was curious. He said at one gig the power went out, and that's when you decided you were going to just play live drums after that.
Yep.
How many
Those things are true.
how many gigs did you do with a drum pad sampler, whatever, before that happened?
I honestly don't know. One of my long-term goals is to compile a list of all of our shows, if that's even possible. I mean, I think it's well over 1,500 shows career-wise. In the early days, it was, like I said, we were all in college. I was at the New School for Jazz Contemporary Music. The rest of the guys were at Columbia for the most part, university. This is in New York City. And we really just played local shows at, on Columbia campus or at local bars nearby. And then eventually we began playing shows downtown and this was 1991. And in sometime in 1992, we had an opportunity to open up for the Dead Milkmen at Wetlands.
Nice.
That was, again, we were all still in college, and it was kind of a dream scenario for us. We couldn't believe it. And we got to play literally right before them to a sold out Wetlands. And then after that, we could headline club shows in Manhattan. So we started to work after that. But the answer to your question is, I don't know, maybe a dozen, maybe 20 shows that I played on the drum machine. It was, it's basically just, I had a relatively cheap Roland drum machine that had, physical pads on it. And I would play the beats because, we were a rap band. So I would play the beats with my thumbs, and it sounded a little bit more like a hip hop band than with a drum kit. But then as Special described, presumably in your last interview, at one point the power kicked out, and you can't hear my thumbs hitting the plastic of the machine. So I guess I felt very emasculated at that moment in time. And as at the time 21-year-old, this was unacceptable. So I said, I'm bringing the drums to the next show.
How long had you been playing drums at that point? Since childhood?
Yeah, I started young. My dad was a drummer, his dad before him. I was the only one foolish enough to pursue it as a career endeavor. I was very fortunate in that way. I was going to a music school downtown, and there were a lot of great players. And I was in a million bands at the time, rock bands and jazz bands and a reggae band, and I was enjoying those. But I noticed that this little sort of prank / funny band that my friends and I had started in college our shows were far more well attended than any of the other shows that my other bands were playing. And very quickly it was sort of obvious which way to go. Stick with my buddies and stick with the fun and connect the circle with a willing audience. And we kept that trend up until the very end of our touring days. And I think that still resonates with people to this day, because our very small and ever shrinking fan base, they're very loyal, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, you got your hooks in some people, and we're lifers, I think. So
that feels great to hear, because we are too.
Right. So I was told that you had maybe 60-ish unfinished songs that you guys had archived and potentially were working to finish or revitalize some of them. Has that occurred yet?
It is a labor of love and a work in progress. But I will say it is as far down the line as it's ever been. Brief nutshell is that after we did our last reunion tour, which was 2012, I think, we would get together regularly just to jam and make music and have fun playing music together. And then we started recording these jams on our iPhones. And over time, we started uploading them to, Google Drive or whatever. And we would listen to them and see which ones resonated best with the singers, Special and Jay Guevara. And, then we'd get together and lather, rinse, repeat, just do that sort of over and over again. And we had a real creative burst in 2013. We did another creative burst in 2015. And then the last time we really did it in earnest was in 2018. And then things kind of petered out. I guess I should preface this all by saying the band members, for the most part, are based in New York City, but several are scattered elsewhere. Jay Guevara lives full-time in Barcelona, Spain. Our keyboardist is in LA. And, we all have full-time jobs and lives and families. So we haven't done music full-time really in quite some time. So this was very sporadic. And then, during the pandemic, we started just meeting up and, hanging out on, Zoom and Google Hangouts like the rest of the planet. And we would continually get offers to do reunion tours, all of which were tempting. But I think, even when we look back at the footage from the 2012 tour, I think we're like, well, let me speak for myself. I felt, oh, these guys are too old to be doing that, and this is in 2012. So, it's 2025 now. So with as each year, ticked by, the question of touring became less and less probable. And then sadly, over the pandemic, our long-term booking agent, Bob Angle, passed away, which was really, tragic for us. He was like a sort of a father figure to me because I was always the contact point in the band. I would speak to him sometimes, 3 or 4 times a day for years. And he was sort of, through, of course, our manager, guru, and spiritual advisor, AJ Stubby Johnson, he was the main sort of point of business out into the world. And long story short, I think that all, I guess, notions or hopes of touring sort of went away at that point. And we said, well, what's left? And I said, look, guys, I run a fulfillment business. I run a warehouse and a fulfillment business where I specialize in indie producers, artists, musicians, record labels, authors, game designers. And I said, let me see if I can get the J's, merchandising back up and running. So I did. We launched a Bandcamp. And we have launched the official YouTube channel. And long story short, we took the meager, and I mean, we're talking dozens of dollars here, profits, and, started reinvesting them into our creative process. And we started going through those old audio files of the jams that we had done, sometimes, 10 years ago, sometimes a little more recently, picking out the kernels of the ideas that we liked the most. And we began developing a system so that we can collaborate musically, artistically again. For the first time, really, I think the band has done this since 2003, when the two Skinnee J's officially sort of disbanded. I think the band has done 4 small, short reunion tours since then. I'm talking a lot here. It's a long way of saying we finally have like the train on the tracks and the methodology to proceed with new recordings. That said, and I think Special may have touched on this in your interview with him, it is an incredibly slow process because it's very different than us sitting in the same room together and saying, hey, how do you like this idea? Try this. How about try that? Oh, what about this? Which is very organic in the way we created, for a decade and change in the 90s and into the early 2000s. So it's a new language we're all developing over the internet, honestly. And then also, I think for the Jays in particular, they haven't sort of flexed that rhyming muscle in quite some time. And they do have this wonderful competitive spirit between the two of them, a friendly competition of like, who can outright the other, and that dynamic has been gone since 2003. So they're slowly but surely relearning that. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if anything will ever get released. I certainly hope so. And now we have a small infrastructure for that, Bandcamp, dozens of people can click on a thing and listen to 30 seconds of it and then move on. But it's more just for ourselves. We like to make music and we're friends, and that's a fun way to spend time together with friends. And if and when we ever finish a track, you'll be the first to know.
And so these little jams and kernels and ideas, they're available for the public to listen to on Bandcamp? Or is that
not even close? No.
Okay.
On Bandcamp, the entire back catalog is there for the first time, really ever.
Okay.
And we're not on any of the other streaming services. Actually, that's not true. Through the major record label releases we have are available on streaming services, but it's not through us. Like, we haven't uploaded to Spotify or Apple Music or anything like that. We may. I have some ethical and philosophical issues with that, but I may be the last old school standout on that front. Plus, we just like to direct people to our Bandcamp account because, that's where we sort of can control the content we offer. And right now, it's literally everything in the archives is there to listen to. Well, there are a few things still hidden in the background, but they'll be coming out over time.
So, I believe it was called the Big Green Book. Is that on
Yeah,
there?
yeah,
Or was that everything? Was that, I can't remember if that included your album tracks and
yeah,
the B-sides or not. It's been a while.
yeah. No
Since
worries. The Big Green Book was I think maybe the coolest release we ever had, which was in 2008 for the I guess first big reunion tour that we did. And Stevie Spice and I rejoined the band, and I think we did, 2 solid weeks, fun, sold out shows. We released what we call a box set, and we named it after our Big Green Bus, which is the Head Start minibus that got us around
Mhm.
before we could afford tour buses. And it had 5 CDs and a DVD and a 250-page spiral bound book.
Oh
So we
man.
called it the Big Green Book, which was pretty cool. And it at the time it had all of our early demos that we had only released on cassette, and it had our 2 self-released EPs, which were Return of the Noon Approved and Singer with Boy Sing. Then it had all of the studio albums, Supermercado, Volumizer, and Sexy Karate. And then because it was such an expansive format and the CDs could be 70 minutes, there were sort of outtakes and sort of rarities sort of tacked on here and there. And then the DVD was essentially all of our official and unofficial videos with some like little, I guess, little tidbits thrown in there. And that was cool. We've pressed up, several thousand copies of that, and they're long gone. But in response to your question, the Big Green Book in its entirety, plus the downloadable PDF of the 250-page book, is available from Bandcamp, and you can listen to it from Bandcamp, or you could download it. You could purchase it and download it and possess it, and share it with your friends if you like. The dozens of dollars could be spread amongst the champions around the world. The few dozen that remain.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Like most people, I think we forget Bandcamp fucking exists a lot of the time.
Yeah,
And
I get it.
it's a great, I think it's a great company. I don't know the inner workings of Bandcamp, but they do good stuff. Like, was it Bandcamp Fridays? You get to keep all the profits or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
And they seem to not be as dirty of people as say Spotify.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, yeah. In brief, they take a small fee monthly for like the pro subscription, and then it's 10% off the top of everything, which is by comparison, a fraction of what the other streaming services, they pay you not pennies on the dollar, but partial
fractions. Yeah.
fractions, and essentially there's no viable way to make a living off of streaming music unless you're in the top echelon of the music industry, and well, we were never destined for that.
Yeah, but you filled a niche in time in people's lives, and you know, there's people that care a lot about you, and you've made your mark, and I think that says something.
Well, we're forever proud of what we did, and I think the main thing we're proud of is that the delineation between band and audience is almost gone with Two Skinny J's. It was the audience was as much of the show as we were, and the physical space between us was an invisible barrier, and we were all hanging out with our friends and fans on and off stage, for the better part of a decade and change, and that's still the same way as it is today. We know almost all of our fans by name, and it was a great way to spend our 20s and early 30s.
And I just caught something on YouTube that it was concert footage, and then in the middle of it was about 10 minutes of the chocolate milk challenge. And so
Yeah.
that takes me back to the 311's second home video they put out. They did the gallon milk challenge. Who did it
Oh,
first? Was it you
oh wow.
guys?
This is literally the first time I'm hearing of this. So I have to confess, I have no working knowledge of 311. I think I
Okay.
know like their main radio hits. That's it. That said, they're incredibly sweet guys and were incredibly generous to us. At one point, we had the same record label management, booking agent, and tour manager.
Oh
So,
wow.
in a lot of ways, we were like their sort of what's the right phrasing here? Their younger brother or like sort of slightly off sort of cousin or something like that. But we never heard 311 until we had signed to Capricorn Records, and none of us were familiar with their music. And with Special J, Joel coming from Omaha, everybody just assumed that we were like best friends with those guys. And like I said, they were very nice to us, but they did not extend personal friendship to us. So
Well,
I don't know. I don't know who did the chocolate milk challenge first. I'm assuming 311, like everything else, they did it first.
I might be hallucinating the memory, but I thought they mentioned you guys in the home video when they show their milk challenge and the vomits and all that stuff.
Wow,
Yeah.
that again, this is the first time I'm hearing of that. That's not the brightest spot in our legacy. I think that was, if I could be honest, that was a little mean spirited on our part.
Eh,
Long story short, you can't keep a human being can't keep down that much milk. So when some kind of like a musclehead type of guy would rise to the chocolate milk challenge, we already knew that he was doomed to fail. And with the video cameras rolling, this is way before iPhones, right? The
right.
actual video cameras rolling, we were just being jerks.
But it was funny and
It was
entertaining
fun.
for you guys. Had to
Yeah,
be.
and it goes thematically with our band, which is, we're like the skinny, nerdy misfits. Some of us not so skinny anymore, but these muscleheads metaphorically represented our imagined oppressors.
Yeah, I get that. I think that most of your fans can relate to that on some
Sure,
level. Where a lot of us were
sure,
nerds and got picked on in high school, and
sure.
uh, uh, yeah, I think not every song touched on that topic, but for instance, Riot Nerd,
Of
it
course.
was like that was like welcoming the Misfits with open arms. This is a safe space. We're
Oh
one of
yeah.
you. So
Yeah, I mean they always say, write about what you know, and that is certainly what we knew.
right, right. And well, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I
Hmm.
guess I wanted to ask you were doing, I'm assuming, the drumming and programming on the albums if there was not a live drum set. And I was just in my car and I put on Volumizer, and never really thought about it. Horns of Destruction
Hmm.
and Sugar and Candy, for example, those are drum machines, right? On on the studio tracks.
Yeah, so all through the Jays catalog, there's like a tapestry or like a collage of rhythm tracks, synthetic and acoustic. Some of those synthetic drums come from drum machines. Some of them come with sample loops from vinyl or other sources. But those two tracks in particular, that the rhythm tracks from what was it? Not Sugar and Candy, but the other one,
Horns of Destruction.
Horns of Destruction. That's a Stevie Spice joint. He virtually single-handedly wrote the music to that track,
It's a banger.
and it's a banger. Yeah, yeah, I remember him on the later Supermercado tours, sort of writing that in the back of the Jay's tour bus, and we were all like, "Yeah, that one's a jam." And then we kind of evolved it into kind of the group piece that it became. And then live, at least on my watch, there'd be live drums sort of emulating the drum loop that Stevie had chopped up for that particular track.
Right, right. And so on 3 minutes, the studio recording, if memory serves me correct, that is not you. That is Dose Big of Shooty's Groove.
Yeah, that was Big Dose from Shooty's Groove. Yeah, so AJ Stumpy Johnson terminated my contract with the Jays right before Volumizer, which
Oh,
was in late 99, early 2000. And then I think, I haven't looked at the numbers. I remember it when I was typing the liner notes for the Big Green Book. I think it was something like 10 or 11 drummers who they needed to replace me for Volumizer. But I did write the vast majority of those drum tracks, and then I performed them on all the reunion tours. But yeah, Dose, a sweetheart of a guy, an incredible drummer, and Shooties were, super killer band that we always loved playing with. And for a brief time, I performed in a band called Bronx Slang, which has Miguel from Shooties and this other MC called Jerry Beeks. And Eddie Eyeball and Lance Rockworthy from the Jays are still working with Bronx Slang. I did some local New York City work and a few recordings with them, but I since parted ways with the Bronx Slang.
okay.
Amicably.
Right, right. And yeah, I didn't know that Bronx slang existed until my conversation with Special J. So that
Mhm.
gave me some new stuff to check out. And
Yeah,
I'm just glad to see that they're still at it, and it's an amalgam of both bands
yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah,
And
they're really, really old school. Like their style harkens back to my favorite era of hip hop, which is kind of the late '80s, early '90s. I guess the golden age of hip hop. We're getting old. That was the part of the genre that really spoke to me, and I think since then, I haven't followed rap as closely, which leads me to 1992's Basshead albums. Basshead is a DC band that we loved, and Mike Ivy from Basshead is the guy who remixed three of the four Champions remixes on the latest Two Skinny J's release. So back in the late 90s, AJ Stumpy Johnson commissioned Mike Ivy from Basshead and his engineer partner, Bev Stanton, who goes by the name of Arthur Loves Plastic, to remix songs from Supermercado. They picked You're a Champion, and they delivered to us four remixes, and they're killer. And I have to admit, at that time, because the Supermercado album cycle had completed, we had already sort of moved on. We were starting to write material for Volumizer, and our minds were all headed in that direction. I'm bringing up the information here so I can speak more clearly on it. And long story short, they sat unlistened to and forgotten in the Two Skinny J's archives since, I'm going to say, mid 1999. And when I was launching all the Bandcamp stuff, me and several digital archivists who were, fans and friends, we were poring over the digital catalog, seeing what was, garbage and what was worthy of release. And these unheard remixes by Mike Ivy and Arthur Loves Plastic, they really stood out. And I went to our record label, who's Bishop Records now, and Jason from Bishop Records, he has done what no other record label has ever done for us, or for me personally, which is to say yes. Jason just says yes. And it's because Jason was a fan. He told me the other day he's been seeing the Jays since 1994. And,
nice.
these releases are just as exciting to him as they are to us. And he was the one who facilitated the Return of the Earth Boy, which is the vinyl repackaging of our early CD EPs. And we are working towards a giant archival release, which is coming up soon. And we figured a good interim release would be this 4-track, 12-inch maxi single, which is Champions Remixes by Basshead's Mike Ivy. And it's pressed on gold vinyl. In fact, I'm going to go over and get this record.
Yeah, I
We,
saw
just
I saw pictures of it. It looks great.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so it looks dope. This is the cover. You can see Stumpy's reflection in the, and this is the album cover, which was done by my friend Scott Collins, who's a killer artist. It's really a riff on Basshead's "Play with Toys," which is their 1992 debut album. It's emulating "Play with Toys," the album cover. Just the iconography is different, and the coloration and the vibe is the same. I think this is the Supermercado logo, and we've got the track listing back here. But here's the cool part. So the gold vinyl, and I hope it shows well on the screen. It does. It looks more yellow on my computer, but I mean this is molten gold color to your eyeballs. And for the first time ever, two Skinnee J's have gone gold, self-appointed. And here's the cool part as well, which is this is limited to 200 copies, and it comes with this $1 million Stumpy bill.
That's amazing.
And on the back of it is a spoiler announcement for the next two Skinnee J's vinyl release, which will be receiving the full deluxe album treatment. It's going to be a 2 LP set. It's going to have 3 gatefolds. It's going to have 2 poster inserts. It's going to have the entire CD booklet as it was, but now 12-inch record size. And I'm not going to say the name of the record. Special spilled the beans on your last podcast with him, and he wasn't supposed to. But he didn't know he wasn't supposed to. But I'm not going to say it here. The fans know what I'm talking about, and we're going to be announcing that soon. Actually, when these ship, this will be announcing it. So I won't have to announce it personally, but maybe you will.
I would be honored. But
right on.
This is the first time two Skinnee J's have been on vinyl. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, just one of those things. Like the timeline of our band is weird. We started in '91 and we ended in 2003. The internet started cracking 96, 97, 98, but MySpace, for instance, wasn't until 2008. So we're mostly a pre-internet band, and we're certainly a pre-social media band. Like, I think we have less than 5,000 fans on Facebook. We have just a few hundred subscribers to our YouTube channel, just a few hundred subscribers to our Bandcamp account. But in addition to missing the entire, cyber revolution, we were also never big enough or cool enough to print on vinyl, because vinyl at the time of our careers was a dying medium. It was all CDs all the time. I think there were a few cassette releases. Certainly our early demos were on cassette, and I think Supermercado was released on cassette as well. But yeah, it was only, unfortunately, CDs and cassettes. And since the band broke up or ended, the most common request that I would receive was, do you have vinyl? Can I purchase your stuff on vinyl? And then regularly, independent record labels would reach out to us and say, hey, can we put your stuff out on vinyl? And I just said no, 1,000 times, until I said yes to Jason Bishop. And since then, he's been kind enough to always say yes back to us. And I'm grateful to Jason for that.
So it just came to me, the nerdy audiophile question, but harking back to my talk with Special J, he said that you guys do not have access to your master recordings.
Oh, yeah.
So how are the vinyls being mixed, mastered for vinyl? Is he taking CD audio, or is there something?
That's a totally legit question. Yeah. So, we do not control our masters from the major label releases. And the albums that we did record ourselves, the one album that we did record ourselves after Volumizer's Sexy Karate was recorded digitally, right? So there was no tape involved. So what we do is we use the most modern audio software advances and the best audio engineering ears that we have access to master this material in the highest fidelity we have, and to master that for the vinyl medium. That said, for us, it's more about cool things we want in our own personal record collections, and extending that in small quantities to the fans, because these things are very expensive to produce, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I don't know, but I would assume it's can be a big pain in the ass. Maybe.
Yeah, well, this big deluxe reissue, which I can't say the name of, is at this point in time like about an 18-month labor of love with a very small and dedicated team project managing it. We've got two audio archivist engineers, Chris and Rain, and we've got artist Scott and several other friends who are helping along the way, and of course the record label and their stellar art direction team.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, and I definitely, no matter if it's a CD master or whatever you want to call it, I need Supermercado and Volumizer on vinyl just to have it, just to sit behind me. Like, I don't know. It's nostalgia. It's something that and it didn't exist in the past. Like you said, vinyl was a dying thing. I just turned 40 actually, and so a little bit younger than you guys. And I'm thinking about it as we're talking. I did not ever once buy a vinyl record for the current music I grew up listening to. It was
Right.
all I started buying cassettes when I was young, but no bands on MTV were putting out vinyl. There was no, I mean, punk bands that weren't popular were doing it, but that's because it was cheap because it was dying, I think, and
Yeah.
then slowly they stopped doing it. So yeah, it's
Ironically, yeah. I mean, again, that was the time where vinyl was out and CDs were in. In hindsight, that's not that great or sexy. But ironically, a bunch of the bands I was in after Two Skinnee J's, we did vinyl releases, and some of those were super really fun and exciting for me. And now it's time to get the J's back catalog on vinyl, and who knows if we can get these new Two Skinnee J songs across the finish line. We will, press them to vinyl, and we will, of course, offer them digitally as well. I doubt we'll ever print another CD. I'll tell you that much.
yeah. Well, you never know. One of your songs could go viral in a TikTok video, and you guys could blow up unexpectedly. Shit happens. Kate Bush or whatever from Stranger Things, If
Hey,
a kid does a TikTok dance to Jedi mind trick.
hey, anything's possible. I mean, we never say never in Two Skinny J's world. But I mean, honestly, I don't even know if I have like a CD. I certainly don't have a CD player, and nor do I have like a physical disc drive in my life anymore. Like I am not for at least a decade. So I can't imagine we pressing anything to CD. But of course, digital releases are the norm these days.
Right.
Anyway, listen, I've got a hop. Do you have one last question for me before we go?
Oh, well,
If not, no sweat.
do you have I just wrote down favorite show, favorite venue. Let's end on
Oh,
that.
wow. Oh, man, that is a tough one.
Most memorable show, maybe that stands out.
So again, certainly in my career, I've played over 1,500 shows. I think the Jays are hovering around 11 or 1,200. It's really hard to pick one out. I mean, Irving Plaza here in New York City was our home away from home. But, before then, Wetlands, where we sort of, really made our bones, will forever be in my heart. A couple places stand out. I mean, the Norva in Norfolk, Virginia, that is a beautiful world-class venue. I have a special place in my heart for the Music Farm in Charleston, South Carolina. I think that's long gone. There's so many from back in the day. I think the Jays never got to tour Europe or Japan, but in in my touring days with other bands, there's Club Vera, which is in I want to say Copenhagen. Uh, there's so many beautiful world class venues around. I mean, we got to play Red Rocks with Black Eyed Peas. That was certainly a bucket list. Geez, I mean, the just headlining the second stage or the emerging artist stage at Woodstock '99, certainly a feather in our cap and a crowning achievement in our short but fun career. I don't know. Are those good answers?
Acceptable. I know you said you got to go, and I asked you the toughest question I've asked so far.
All good.
Last thing though, I didn't watch it. Did you appear in the Woodstock '99 documentary that came out a year or two ago?
No, we were not cool or relevant enough to have been asked to participate. But we did frickin' headline the emerging artist stage on a weekend night right before the all night rave with Fatboy Slim. I was there. It was huge. There were thousands and thousands of people there, and it happened, whether or not the documentary admits it or not. I know we weren't handsome enough to appear on that documentary.
Wow. You were there and you know it, so that's what's important.
Yeah.
You know, you'll.
Oh, I've got some stories about that one.
So,
well, listen, Jason, we got to follow up when we do announce the big, and I think it'll be this spring. Will be the announcement for the deluxe reissue of The Thing that I won't say. But please let us do this again so we can discuss it in full. You know, its inception, its production, why it's cool, and the differences between the original edition and the deluxe edition that we're super psyched to bring into the world, because I am, champing at the bit to talk about it. I can't wait to spill my guts about this one, but now is not the time.
Right. All right. Well, I would absolutely love to do this again, and just thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to chop it up. So I appreciate you. Thanks for the music and all the love, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, J Rod. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Take
You
good
have
care.
yourself a good one.
You too, brother.
See ya.
This right here, that's my shit.